Welcome back to the Balance Sheet, where we talk about all things in the world of women's wrestling. I am one of your co-hosts, Raj, aka King of Jar.
What's up, everyone? I'm Billy.
And this week we have a lot of news to cover, and most of it is actually not in the ring. So, Billy, I'll set the stage for you. The very big news coming out of the world of wrestling this week is for the first time ever, Wrestlemania, the biggest wrestling sports entertainment event ever, the event that really changed and reshaped the business, is happening not in North America. It is not happening in the United States or Canada like it has previously 42 times or 41 times. And it was announced that it will be taking place in the Kingdom of Jeddah, Riyadh season, Saudi Arabia. And this is one of the most controversial things that the WWE has ever done. And they have
Yep.
done a lot of controversial things. So I will set the stage for you right away. What are your thoughts about WrestleMania being in Saudi Arabia and how this relates to what we discuss, which is the women of professional wrestling?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. Unpopular decision. Absolutely. If you don't believe us, go to the YouTube video of Triple H announcing it. The downvotes are significantly outpacing the upvotes. Um, Lots of comments. If you watch the live stream, I mean, the whole thing, some people have screen recorded and it's on Twitter, but sellout is basically, and I think there was even a "you sold out" chant at one point. So here's my opinion on it. I think people are going to be mad for a couple of days, um, kind of like they were, with Brock Lesnar coming back, or a million other things. It seems like they've done recently. Some of the controversy they had around, WrestleMania with the roast. Um, but I think that this anger will stick a little bit more, and that's for a couple of reasons. This is functionally not going away. If you're mad about this, it's going to be thrown in your face during the whole build. You're not going to like all of a sudden be like, oh, this is, it's whatever. It's going to be thrown in your face during the whole build. And people, I'm sure there are people out there that have, if not all 41, 42 manias as a streak going. Um, there are people that we talk to all the time that are probably on a 10 WrestleMania streak, 11 however many, and just not going to have a lot of people going from the United States to Saudi Arabia. Just being completely honest, that's there's travel and then there's travel. Not only is that very very far away, it's a part of the world that um, people are probably not familiar with. Uh, I want to be clear, nothing against the Saudi fans. I see a lot of them very, very happy, on Twitter, and it's, you know, more of to do with just kind of like selling to the highest bidder and kind of, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And I also look at it from the point of view of, some people not very happy with, you know, what's currently going on in this country, and they've got a lot of WWE stuff that's kind of controversial in that lane as well. So I think the controversy of what it is actually going to be less of an issue than the actual logistics of what happens with a group of people that are used to going to a show and building a whole week of vacation around a show, and how it helps them buy into January, February, March, April, and the programming, and then functionally taking that away from the core of the fan base where they're not going to be able to go to the show, and build their week around it. Most people going to be very very few that can, um, not only travel there, but I'm sure the tickets are going to be crazy. So I think what's going to hurt them longer term is the actual lack of ability to attend the show for their normal audience.
The way it works in the kingdom, in terms of these wrestling events or the boxing events or the UFC events that they've held, and they have, and I'll get to the finance part of this here in a sec. I don't think any Americans or American fans, unless they are
Well
maybe
connected.
natives of Saudi
Okay.
Arabia, are going to attend, because these events that they have held in Saudi Arabia, the Crown Jewels, the Royal Rumbles, they're going to have a Royal Rumble.
That's the next one,
Remember,
right?
yeah, remember the country of Saudi Arabia, the kingdom, they're basically giving the WWE a lump sum payment to hold the event. But then after that, they administer tickets at their will. They sell the tickets to who they want to sell the tickets to. There is a percentage of families that are allowed to attend, women that are allowed to attend without men. There is a lot of red tape, fine print that I don't think anybody from the United States or maybe England will attend. Maybe folks from England, because there's more of a connection. But I would be hard pressed, given that it's WrestleMania and there's going to be an influx of folks in Saudi Arabia that want to attend and probably have a way of getting into that arena. Because remember, with the amount of money they're paying to WWE, saying, hey, what do you make off of a normal WrestleMania after it's all said and done? Expenses, da da da. What do you make? WWE said, okay, we make 100 million. Great. We'll give you 150. We'll give you 200. Cool? Cool. Thank you. At that point, they control everything about it,
Yeah.
and this is why you have seen Undertaker, Kane versus Shawn Michaels, Triple H in a match nobody ever wanted to see, but because they're fronting the bill and they're saying, yeah, we want this match. Okay. Yeah, I think there are a lot of people who go to WrestleMania every year. I have been to 3 WrestleManias in my life. No, I've been to 4. And I probably won't go to another one for the rest of my life. I hate to say it like that. A, it's become a little bit too much. B, the ticket prices are what they are, and I fundamentally disagree with how they have priced out even people who can afford it. It's just not where you want to spend your money. But look,
Yeah, people who can't, the cost value structure just even it doesn't make sense.
Look, we in every wrestling fan, when this was rumored, was upset. Mostly it was one of the unified things that wrestling fans were agreeing upon, right? Like normally wrestling fans don't agree on anything. This was the one thing that everybody seemed to agree on. Like, oh, this is like, why is London not getting it? Why is Paris not getting it? Whatever happened to Indianapolis that you promised, or New Orleans or Vancouver? They have been promising all these other cities an opportunity at WrestleMania. John Cena went, in London, middle of the ring. Hey, London has to get WrestleMania. Look, money's gonna talk. And, TKO is a leverage to the hilt company. They are not a big cash company. And this is a way to get cash in their account. And look, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, they have a lot of money. The 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 fund that I guess is responsible for last night, Canelo Bud Crawford, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, Crown Jewel, UFC events. This fund has $1.15 trillion dollars with a T, not a B. 1.15 trillion. So $250 million dollars, which is reportedly the figure that they are paying for this specific WrestleMania. And I've heard, I've gotten people who've texted me that it's closer to 500 million, but maybe that could be for multiple events. I don't know. My point is $250 million dollars into 1.15 trillion is 0.0217%. It's literally nothing. So when you have that kind of
Pocket
money,
change. Out of a
you're
trillion,
going
it's
to,
pocket
yeah,
change.
and I'm not going to sit here and get on my high horse and say that if I wasn't the CEO of TKO, I wouldn't take the money either. Knowing how debt leveraged my company is, buying UFC, never really making the money back off UFC, then doubling down, buying WWE, being, this on paper $20 billion company, but when you look at the tills, the cash just isn't there and you have a lot of debt, you're going to have to get out of that debt. You have stockholders you answer to, you have finance people you answer to, you have loans you got to pay back. One of the easiest ways to get the money back is honestly, I would not be surprised. I have two predictions. Number one, I wouldn't be surprised if Saudi Arabia is every other year WrestleMania. Saudi, another city, Saudi, another city, Saudi, another city. And number two, I I'm also making this prediction. My prediction is that in 5 years, TKO will be sold to the Saudi group. They will own this company. They will own TKO, and because they have long wanted to get a footprint into American sports, they have been rejected by the NFL. But now I think the NFL very recently opened up to outside investors for small minority stakes. So if you can't get a football team or a baseball team or a basketball team or a hockey team or a Major League Soccer team, then the next best thing to get is wrestling and UFC.
Yeah.
And if we're being honest, the TKO group, they have no emotional attachment to the UFC or to what we care about here. And I don't think we care about the WWE, but I think we care about, the performers in the company.
Yeah.
They have no emotional or sentimental attachment to not sell it. But I want to get your thoughts here. What are your thoughts about this as it relates to the women? Because that's what we
Yeah.
really want to get into.
Yeah. And I was just gonna ask you the same question. So you talk about money and how much money is gonna flow through. Um, Later on in this podcast, we'll talk about, some executives on the TKO side saying the quiet part out loud, which only proves our point about how important AEW is. But okay, Shawn Michaels was probably the most retired pro wrestler ever.
Hmm.
Like the one who retired while he could still function and said, I don't want to ruin what that last moment was. And he even came out of retirement because money talks. So, on one side, are the women on this show going to make a paycheck that even makes their previous WrestleMania paychecks blush? Better be. We're always going to advocate for the wrestlers to get paid. So I hope everybody gets a bigger paycheck than ever for participating in the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. Because if not, that's even worse. However, there's a lot of problems with the women. There's the bodysuits that they have to wrestle in. Um, and these are, middle of the neck all the way down through, can't have, got to have the boots up over the legs and outdoor stadium, hot, hot, hot. So you lose kind of the gear pageantry, though they've gotten more creative the more it's become part of their life that they do this every once in a while. Two, the women who have done this have stated that it is very, very, very difficult. And they get back to the locker room exhausted, sweating like crazy. Um, so you just wonder how good of a Royal Rumble match can we have? That one might be okay because each woman is only out there a certain amount of time. I don't think we're breaking the time record at that Royal Rumble. If they do that, that producer needs to be, talked to. And then WrestleMania on a great one-on-one, how good of a match can we get? And I'm not doubting the women ability to put together a good match. What I'm saying is, is it safe to do 18, 19 minutes out there? Um, with what we've heard, I think you said before we recorded, Liv Morgan and Alexa have both kind of stated it was pretty rough.
Yeah, because they take off their bodysuit and it's just drenched in sweat, right? And
Yeah.
you know your body can't breathe. The best women's match we've ever gotten out of Saudi Arabia is Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair, three-way.
Yep. Easily.
That was the best women's match we ever got. Saudi has produced some really dud women's matches, and I think part of it, or most of it, is what you are speaking to, which is A, they're not really comfortable in the attire they're wearing because they kind of have to play by a certain set of rules. And then number two, the crowds sometimes for women's matches are different. And I
They
could
love Sasha Banks though.
they do like Sasha Banks a lot. They are huge Carmella fans. She will not be maybe she will be brought back for the Rumble. You know, they're huge Liv Morgan fans. Okay, so I'm gonna say the quiet part out loud myself. I'm gonna say a couple things here. Number one, they have preferences in the women that they like in that country. And you can go back and watch every crown jewel at who gets cheered and who isn't getting cheered, and they have a type. Here's my concern. If that's really the case, do they now control which women get on the card?
Yeah.
Do they say, we're paying you $250 million, which isn't chicken feed. We want X, Y, and Z women's wrestler because that's who we like in this country. They fit our aesthetic. And then our women who have been building up to that point with a story, with momentum, are they going to then be told, well, they're not really that interested in you and they don't get on the show, right? So that would be a shame. I
Yep.
think it's very much in play. And then, so here's where I think, well, this company is tone deaf on a lot of areas right now. Like they really are. And I know a couple of listeners who listen to this show are very pro WWE TKO group and they feel like they can do no wrong. And I'm going to say something, which is if you really cared about the women in your company, yes, they're going to get probably the biggest payday of their life in this Saudi WrestleMania. That is for sure. The ones who are able to make the card. But if I were WWE, I would be, and we're going to talk about counter programming here with AEW as it relates to this. But you know what I would do if I were WWE? If I really wanted to corner the market on wrestling, I would say, okay, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia. And then we're going to do all the women's matches in an American arena the same day. So you're going to have, like, you're going to do WrestleMania 2. And for those of you like me who are old enough to remember WrestleMania 2 was in three locations. It started out in New York City. They had four matches. And once those matches were over, the Titantron or the big screens dropped from the ceiling and they watched Chicago. And then Chicago had their four matches. And then when Chicago was done, LA, which already watched in New York and Chicago, then had their matches, and New York and Chicago watched on TV. I would do something like that for WrestleMania. I would have all the women's matches on shore in the United States. Pick one of those cities that you promised WrestleMania to, Indianapolis, New Orleans, run a stadium, run New Orleans, but have five women's matches on the card, six women's matches. They could sell the place out pretty easily. And then as soon as the men's stuff is over, because Saudi Arabia is way ahead on time, go to the women's stuff so you don't cripple your women, A, with the bodysuits, B, with the kingdom gets to choose which women are on the card, and C, you give the women their own kind of spotlight and you give American fans and England fans and Canadian fans and French fans the opportunity to travel to a WrestleMania to keep their streak going. That's what I would do.
I, I think it's a great idea. Um, and not just for so kind of one of the other things that's going to crop up here. Are they going to pick which women they want to see? Yes. Are they also going to pick which men they want to see? Yes. And some of those matches are in the year 2027, not WrestleMania caliber matches. I mean, the people footing the bill for this want to see Stone Cold Steve Austin for the world title. Like, and that sounds like a joke, but it's kind of not, you know? They're going to be asking, can Bret Hart still wrestle? I made the joke on Twitter, and it's kind of not a joke. I'm almost certain that there might be a conversation where it's like, hey, so how much is it going to take for Sasha Banks to be on this show? Like, because she is, you know, one of the favorites. That's the type of booking that's going to go into this show. So your January to April, you're booking what's going to be on WWE TV here on shore is going to be off and weird because they're going to have to build feuds that don't fit their world anymore. I love the idea. I did, and no one knows. So if they can do that, they should do that. I did read, I think it was Mike Johnson. Someone said that Saudi was very clear to WWE that they can do nothing that diminishes or waters down that this show in Saudi is WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm. No,
And you could make the argument that if that's the case, them doing a American version would be looked down upon. He also reported that they want to try to make this WrestlePalooza a thing, and I think you nailed it. They're going to go Saudi, they're going to go Royal Rumble, Saudi, US WrestleMania, US Royal Rumble, Saudi WrestleMania. I think that's going to be the every other year thing. And then maybe WrestlePalooza will be the fall event that they maybe always have in America. But
yeah,
it's going to
Wrestle.
be interesting. It's going to change the booking. So
No,
I
yeah.
think the number one thing that it comes down to, you know, again, be happy for the fans out there. Nothing against them. It's exciting for them. But the program will not be the program had it been somewhere else. If it was in England, it would be the program. Um, if it was in Saudi Arabia but run independently on WWE's dime, it would be the program. It's not. Someone else is going to choose the card, and that's what's going to make it, I think, ultra odd.
Well, we have never been shy on this podcast to talk about Mercedes Moné, formerly known as Sasha Banks. So if you read the tea leaves, her contract in AEW allegedly is up 2026 or 2027 January. Hypothetically, contract is up or about to be up. Saudi royal family gets a hold of her. They say, look, you're one of our favorites. We want you at the Saudi WrestleMania. $10 million. What does she do? What does she do?
Well, there is precedent, and people may not know this, but um, Chris Jericho was running independence in Japan. Now AEW didn't exist yet, but he was running independence as kind of a, you know, he that was when the, you know, Judas came out. He was
Hmm.
booked as a badass. He was doing the face makeup and all that stuff. And right in the middle of that, so it's like he's the IWGP champion, you know, fighting in main events in Japan, really good, probably one of the better parts, you know, a good part of his career, certainly at the end. And then AEW's here in the middle of that. He showed up to be Chris Jericho at the 50-man Royal Rumble. And not only was he Chris Jericho, he was goofy, whiny, clipboard Chris Jericho. Like he literally put on the Wayback Machine, and he showed up as the old version of himself and just pretended like he wasn't doing this whole other thing. You know, does money talk enough that she gets to just appear on the show as a one-off. I mean, she takes dates all over the place all the time. Crazier
Mhm.
things have happened, but I think we're way far too out to predict
Well,
that.
we are, but we're not because we're coming into the latter half of 2025. The Royal Rumble that is going to happen in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia is right around the corner, and then um 2027 is going to be here, and you never know with this stuff. But the reason, okay, so I understand what you're talking about, and I've read the Mike Johnson report too, that you know the Kingdom, they're paying for WrestleMania. They're not paying for a knockoff WrestleMania. They're not
Right.
paying for a glorified house show. They want pomp, circumstance, WrestleMania. So whatever you would do in the United States for WrestleMania, we want it times X because we're paying times X. I get that. But remember, women weren't even allowed to participate on these shows until later after they happened. So and that's one of the reasons the first evolution existed. The first
Yep.
evolution existed because of they couldn't go to Saudi. Okay, so we're past that. Bianca Belair has wrestled in 9 Saudi shows.
Is it 9?
She said it. I saw the interview. She said that she feels like Saudi is like one of her wrestling homes. She's wrestled in every single event they've ever had that when women have been allowed. She's been on every single one.
That's crazy.
So the fact that she's been on 9 shows, I mean, you can't sit there and say, "Oh, well, the women are this new thing," because 9 is probably more than most guys, right? Like I'd
Yeah,
be hard pressed to see how many people have more than 9. But where I'm going with why I would do the WrestleMania in the United States and I would do the one in Saudi Arabia is then you're not restricted, but you have to go to the kingdom. You have to go to them and say, "Hey, we want to do this where women won't be in your show visibly in the stadium. Are you okay with that?" Now they could easily say, "No, we didn't sign for it. We didn't pay you a quarter of a
or
billion."
give us these four and you could do
Yes.
whatever else with the rest. So more to come on if they do anything like that. That's up in the air. What shouldn't be up in the air, and it's your idea, so I want to kick it up for you. This creates a gigantic vacuum and business opportunity in the United States. If you don't understand WrestleMania, all the independent promotions in the United States that are worth, you know, anything and running shows that would get any wrestler you've ever heard of, they spend the whole week booking that town around WrestleMania. So, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all sorts of shows for people who are coming in for WrestleMania. Um, and it's really a love letter to wrestling that whole week. Now, WWE is not a great partner in that love letter. You know, uh, this year they actually did participate. I think Natty was on Bloodsport the night before WrestleMania this year, but generally WWE wrestlers don't participate in that. But the whole independent scene flies into a Las Vegas or New Orleans and books some of their biggest shows of the year. Now we're going to have a WrestleMania week that won't be a WrestleMania week. And you think that a certain rich wrestling fan with the number 2 promotion in the world should take advantage. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, this is a very easy one for me. When I saw this announcement, I said, okay, if I'm Tony Khan, number one, I'm looking at the cities that was promised WrestleMania that got WrestleMania taken from them. So there have been, by my account, there's about 3: Minneapolis, New Orleans, Indianapolis, that are probably going to lose WrestleMania because of the Saudi or the Riyadh agreement. Fine. I look at one of those cities. I might not have the strongest footprint in those cities compared to WWE, but I'm gonna announce it in advance. Like I'm gonna announce it January, like When they have the Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia, if I'm Tony Khan, that moment on Twitter, I'm saying 2027, we are running this city stadium show, fan-friendly ticket prices, and it's going to be AEW, CMLL, New Japan, Stardom, and all the rest of the independent companies in the world. We are going to have the biggest professional wrestling card of all time, and we're going to have the best of the best fighting the best. And he doesn't have to say WWE by name. Everybody knows why he would be doing this. And it's not something and I would stream it for free on HBO. I
Yeah.
would stream it for free. I would make the
I
ticket prices very, accessible. Like, I would probably do front row $1,000, 1,500. Start the ticket price at $100 and go up. There's an economy that is waiting for Tony to take because there are going to be people now who, everybody knows you do your budgets, whatever. You're already you were before this announcement budgeting for 27/7 WrestleMania. Okay, it's going to cost us this, da, da, da. Well, now you still have that disposable income or that budgeted to spend, but you can't spend it because you can't go to Saudi. Okay, I'm going to get your money. And I'm going to look at who the marquee free agents are upcoming in WWE. And I'm going to, through back channels, let that person know, hey, look, I want you part of the show. You could possibly be the main event, the marquee, and I'm going to pay you this. And they do this all the time. And that's what I would do. So this is not new at all. Everybody looks at WWE as the counter programming company right now, and they are. But this actually started. This has been a battle for a long time. So let me give everybody a little bit of a history lesson here. 1987, Richfield Coliseum, Cleveland, Ohio, Survivor Series. Prior to that, Thanksgiving, which is where Survivor Series was held on Thanksgiving Day, the Crockett folks, the NWA, they had a monopoly. Starrcade was always done on Thanksgiving. It was always done on Thanksgiving. Vince McMahon wanted to compete. So he brought up Survivor Series. And he went to all the cable pay-per-view distributors and he said, look, if you don't show Survivor Series over Starrcade, you don't get WrestleMania. And at that time, WrestleMania was the big pay-per-view draw other than a Mike Tyson fight.
Well, he had just gotten WrestleMania 3, Hogan versus
Mhm.
Andre, so he was at the height of his power the first time selling WrestleMania.
Yes, and what people don't know is WrestleMania 5 until WrestleMania in 2007 had the record for pay-per-view buys. It was WrestleMania 5. It wasn't
Yep.
Austin Rock, it wasn't any of that stuff. It was WrestleMania 5. Macho Man Hogan had the record. And okay, so Crockett said, "Okay, you're gonna take us off Thanksgiving. You're gonna squeeze us out. So now we have to move Stargate to December, but we're gonna get you back." WrestleMania 5, the for the longest time, the number one wrestling pay-per-view event of all time. You know what Crockett did? They ran something called Clash of the Champions. Smack against WrestleMania 5. And they drew a monster number. They put it for free on TBS. They did, I think Sting Flair, and they got a monster number. I think they got like 5 million people or something
Yeah.
crazy. Some crazy. So the precedent is there. And if I'm Tony, I'm planning it right now because he has an opportunity more other than maybe the 1996 and 1998 WCW to really take a bite out of the WWE. And another reason he has the opportunity, and I'm going to get your thoughts on this, is so Mark Shapiro, who is the CEO of TKO, he is the boss. He is the top person. You know, Nick Khan is under him, Triple H is under him, Dana White is under him. I mean, Ari Emanuel is the board, he's the guy on the is like I guess the chairman. Mark Shapiro came out in I could not believe that this interview actually made it to like air or it got reported on because I thought, does he know the tape recorder is on? Because I would
Yeah.
say this stuff. He said Vince McMahon was very focused on fan-friendly ticket prices, but he wasn't focused on maximizing the ticket revenue. And we feel like we have not priced our tickets to maximize the profits, and we're going to continue to raise the prices because the demand says we should, because the people are still buying tickets and we feel like, oh, we can make even more money. Okay, that's number one. Number two, they asked him, in all other major sports, NBA, NFL, NHL, the players get, because they have unions, 50% of all NFL, NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball related revenue. So if you as a company make $4 billion, then the wrestlers make 2 billion. Okay, so WWE is priding itself now. TKO is a $20 billion company. They're saying WWE is a $10 billion company. Wrestlers do not make $5 billion of the salary. And Mark Shapiro said, I don't think we need to look at the wrestling salaries at all. Wrestlers' salaries. The premium top people will always get paid top dollar, and everybody else will get paid what we feel like they should get paid. Okay. So I am teeing up this softball for you before I kind of give my thoughts on these two items. So you have the ticket prices, and now you have him basically saying, I'm going to pay them what I want to pay them, and I don't really care what you think. What are your
Yep.
thoughts about his interview?
So as it relates to our audience, and focusing it, I'll take the second point first. The top guys are always going to get paid. We advocate for all wrestlers to get fair pay and pushing towards that 40-50% of revenue that other major sports get. By the way, we also have an opposing Daniel Bryan quote that I think
Mhm.
matches up really, really well. But if the list of top guys is X, historically, the amount of women on that list is going to be less than it should be. So for people listening to this podcast, that's problem A. That means what Mark Shapiro is saying is we got no problem giving Rhea, Becky, Bianca, IYO a record-breaking deal when their time comes. But the rest of the women are not going to be, the rest of the men and the women are not going to be paid competitively. That's how you get a Dakota Kai being released. And that's what I've been saying on the podcast for months now. At some point, your middle group is going to feel that they could either be more creatively satisfied elsewhere or more well compensated elsewhere. And that's kind of what you just said. Tony sending out backstage kind of feelers on people he's interested in, even though that's tampering or whatnot. But I'm sure that talk goes around out there. So Daniel Bryan, stated, and it's factual, AEW wrestlers are taking in 40 to 50% of the revenue.
Yeah.
That's why Tony was not profitable for several years, and this TV deal has allowed him to be profitable while raising salaries. If you are a WWE and WWE only fan on this and you wish AEW was gone, this is the center of the universe of this argument why you should be happy that AEW exists. Because whoever you're a fan of, Liv Morgan, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Alexa Bliss, they all get paid more because of AEW. Mark Shapiro said out loud, God, I wish we could pay these people less. And we're only going to really pay the ones a lot who, top this list. The rest of them, look at Karrion Kross and Scarlett Bordeaux. I'm not a fan, but he was on SummerSlam and he's not a top guy, and so they gave him an offer. He didn't think it was fair, and he's gone. I mean, you don't think that's going to happen? We've bemoaned Natty re-signing for a while. If that happened a year later, they wouldn't have re-signed Natty. I think TKO is far more in control of what gets offered now than they were. That was only a couple months after the purchase. And then to your first point, before I kick it back to you, I make a good living. I'm I'm blessed. Me and my wife are very comfortable. We get to go on trips that we choose to go on, and for the most part, I'm not rich or anything like that, but I live comfortably, and most of the things I want to do, I'm blessed enough to be able to do it. If we decide today, God, I'd really love to go to Detroit for a Lions game, I could logistically probably work that out. I was able to fly to El Paso to go to an AEW event with you
Mhm.
because the value we got for the tickets we paid for was immense and worth it. There are shows in Nashville for WWE that I'm like, I'm not paying that.
Mhm.
And that's someone in my situation. So you got people with 2, 3 kids. Mark Shapiro's making us side with Vince McMahon on this damn podcast.
Yeah,
You
that's
don't have a future fan base if kids aren't going to these shows. You just don't.
no, you
Not
don't.
not a weekly TV show fan base. If you stripped it down to 12 events a year and it was premium, does UFC do weekly TV that they expect 10 to 15,000 people to go to? They
No,
don't. It's not the same model. These guys are crazy. If
it,
kids stop going to these shows, their Monday and Friday TVs are going to be awful. Awful.
the the UFC model is basically, let's call it what it is. It's for single men, right? Single men,
Yeah.
or when I remember when I first, now, my ex-wife, but at the time when I first started to, we were just married, and we were in that phase of, okay, we're going to do all these new things as a couple. And like you and your wife, we were very comfortable. We had opportunities to do, these trips, and whether it's Spain or Bali or any of these places, we went to UFC. We got a chance to attend UFCs in Chicago. But those ticket prices then were seen as very expensive at the time, but it was like a one-off thing. It's like, okay, they're in my city. Okay, we're gonna pay $1,000 for 2 tickets. Okay. But now for one of those same seats, it's probably 2,500, right? It's gone up exponentially. But here's where I will go back to the salary thing and why AEW is very, very important, and why honestly more wrestlers need to make the pilgrimage to AEW, if for nothing else, to help the salary situation. So other than, my co-host here who's wearing the hat of his favorite team, I wonder how many people on this podcast who listen to this podcast weekly know who DJ Reader is. Does anybody know, other than Billy or myself, who DJ Reader is? Okay, so he plays for the Detroit Lions. He makes more money than every single WWE wrestler except Roman Reigns. He makes $14.1 million. He has 87,000 Instagram followers. And everybody looks at Instagram followers as this sign of some popularity. So, which WWE wrestler doesn't have 87,000 followers?
Right.
Right. So you think about it. I'm not, look, DJ Reader is a solid player. He's a good player. He got signed. It was a big splash signing when the Lions signed him, but nobody knows who he is outside of football. Like, and I understand, like, oh, well, but 50% of the country are football fans. Yeah, but most even football fans don't really, they're not crunching all 22 DJ Reader tape. They're not, Mina Kimes or Orlovsky. My point
Right.
is DJ Reader is a virtual nobody in the sports and entertainment world. He's making more money than every single wrestler except one
Because of a union.
because of a union. So, because wrestling does not have a union, or a structure where it makes sure that it gets 50% of the revenues. This is why you have basically the Indian economic system, which is you have very few haves and mostly have-nots in perspective of what they produce. Like I said, WWE does not make $10 billion dollars a year. They are on paper a $10 billion company, but they do make comfortably $2 billion a year. So are wrestlers getting $1 billion in salary? No, because if the highest paid wrestler is making 15 million and they have 100 wrestlers on the roster, even if everybody made $15 million, right? Like, I mean,
Do you think they're at 25%?
no, from what I have been told, it's 11%.
And it was like 8% even just 5 years ago,
I,
right?
I heard it's 11 to 13% is what
Crazy.
wrestlers average wrestler. So how many wrestlers, you know what? Let's do some math here for everybody while we're on the air. So how many WWE wrestlers on roster? Let's see. Okay, 86. Okay.
That's probably not counting NXT.
Okay. Well, let's just take okay. So if we just take the 86 main roster wrestlers and $1 billion of revenue is what they should split because it's 50% of the 2 billion. The average salary should be 11.6 million.
Yep.
Okay. So if we're saying the total salaries are going to be $80 million. Okay, because that's 8% of 1 billion. So let's give Mark Shapiro the 13%. So
Okay.
130 million is what the total roster makes. If Reigns makes 15 million, he is taking up 8.66% of the salary cap. Okay. That means the average main roster wrestler is making 1.5 million. Still really good money compared to most of society. Great money compared to most of society. But we know that 86 does not include NXT, so that number is coming down. So the average WWE performer is probably making, I'm gonna say about 800,000 a year. I can feel comfortable with that number.
Yeah, if you take Roman off, if you take the top five out of there, it's probably 700 800K is the average.
So they're making $800,000, but
And
they're generating a billion or 2 billion.
yeah, and that's the thing. The DJ Reader example's fantastic because, you know, it's not okay. The union negotiates how much the performers are worth to the total revenue. So then if that's 50%, then you look and you say DJ Reader is a starting defensive tackle. There are 64 of those in the NFL. which means there's probably 70 guys capable of starting, and there's probably 20 that are cream of the crop. And DJ is one of those, so he's on this scale. If wrestling was looked at the same way, that would be someone like, or let's say WWE was being paid the same way. That would be somebody like Julia, who's the current United States Women's Champion. And in WWE terms, they aggressively signed her. But if they were truly sharing 50% of revenue, Julia would probably be making 5 to 7 million a year. And she's maybe making, I would guess 1 million to 1.15 because they had to go out and get her. That would be my guess.
I think, yeah, I think that would be the max she would make.
How many women are making that 5 to 7 million? In WWE? Three,
Yeah,
two,
I would say.
Becky and Rhea maybe, and then Bianca when she resigns.
I would say I'm gonna take a guess on this one and say three, and the three is the two you mentioned, and only because she held it for 2 years, I'm gonna say Alexa Bliss because she came back and got what she wanted, so she must have gotten something good. So let's just use her. Those three.
I think hers was reported at 4, but I mean we're
Okay,
splitting
so
hairs at
four,
this point
four.
because
So
4 is
Charlotte
a good.
four, her is four. Okay, so Charlotte and her are four. Becky, Rhea are above that. That's four people. The point here is if you're generating $2 billion in revenue, then the wrestler should get $1 billion. That's how it would work in any other sports entity.
And and the reason they don't is because the WWE, and frankly, some of y'all listen to this are guilty. WWE says WWE is more important than Charlotte Flair, the name,
Mhm.
Julia, Alexa Bliss, Sasha Banks. And that's why, as we've continued to say, what Mercedes did was so important because she was able to go elsewhere, make she's in that Becky Rhea group, whatever it is that she makes. Hers is harder to calculate because she's got other things that she's allowed to do in AEW, but that's why it's so important. That's why, like Raj just said, more people need to cross that bridge because it'll force Mark Shapiro to open his damn bank account and share more revenue.
So the NFL is not completely absolved from this exact model because when the NFL famously in 1987 went on strike, they had replacement players, and then they had some, as they called them, scabs who crossed the line, the picket lines, and the ratings were still good, and people still came to the arenas and the state bought merchandise, whatever. Look, you have the logo, and actually, both of our teams are kind of we've done this recently too. The Detroit Lions had, a number one draft pick and a prodigal son in Matthew Stafford. He was their guy. He wanted out, didn't think the team did right by him. That's a different conversation for a different set of podcasts. But he got traded to the Rams, and the Rams traded Jared Goff. And quickly, Lions fans are like, bye, Matt Stafford. Hello, Jared Goff. And to be fair, Jared Goff has done better in Detroit winning than Matt Stafford ever did. But the thing is, you Lions fans have quickly moved on to Jared Goff. You guys have, hey, thank you, Matt, for your time. We really appreciate it, but goodbye. Okay, us Eagles fans, we're an interesting bunch because we don't like we almost hate success. But the point I'm trying to make here is like we had Carson Wentz and he was this prodigal son, third pick in the draft, 6'5", could throw the football through a brick wall, blah, blah, blah. We draft this guy from Alabama, Oklahoma, Jalen Hurts. The team gets rid of Wentz. Hurts, he does what he does. We've quickly, moved on from Carson Wentz. We are about our shield, right? You're about your Lions. I'm about my Eagles.
And on the flip side, how many Saquon Barkley fans were there in Philadelphia, and now he's the
Yeah,
guy?
exactly. He has the top selling jersey. So the NFL has always said it's shield above anything else, right? Like nothing is bigger than the shield and nothing is bigger than the logo on the front, not the name on the back. But that's why the NFL, in comparison to the NBA, does so well because the NFL is about the team, not the player. The NBA in the post Jordan era with real free agency and real movement became about the player, not about the team. But in wrestling, it's not sports. It's entertainment that's athletic. And I've always used this analogy. If Leonardo DiCaprio left Warner Brothers and went to Paramount and signed a movie deal with Paramount, would I stop watching Leonardo DiCaprio movies because he's at Paramount? I don't care about the studio. I don't give a crap about Paramount, Warner Brothers, MGM. I could care less of Skydance, whatever it's called. I care about the actor, the actress. I'm going to watch a Meryl Streep movie, no matter who is the producer, not the producer or director, but who's the production company, the studio. Well, that's
Yeah.
the same thing I look at wrestlers. Yeah, Sasha Banks left one studio in WWE and went to a new studio in AEW and decided to do, she had a name change. She's like, I don't want to be Sasha Banks. I want to be Mercedes Moné. It's the same person. So I'm going to support the actor or the actress. And in this case, the wrestlers. It's not the same thing as the NFL. Like I know I've seen this on Twitter saying, "Oh, if Jalen Hurts left the Eagles and went to the Chicago Bears, and that would immediately make him the best Bears quarterback ever." Hi, Bobby. But I would stop cheering him. Yes, that is true. That is true. I thank him for everything he's done for us, but I have to move on because I'm about the Eagles. But that's not the same thing here. And people
It's
are
not.
it's not. So sorry.
The analogy, the true analogy would be if XFL came back and they let's say they got 12 teams and they were able to get current Philadelphia Eagles onto, the Philadelphia,
Stars.
what is it?
Stars. That was the USFL teams.
Philadelphia Stars and the Detroit Panthers or the Michigan Panthers were the Detroit Lions, and we wake up next year and Jalen Hurts is playing for the Stars and Saquon Barkley's playing for the Stars and Jared Goff is playing for the Panthers. Jahmyr Gibbs is playing for the Panthers. I'm watching that game
Yeah, because there's the same
because they're
guy.
the best.
Yeah, that's it. They're the best, right? And
Yeah.
when everybody makes that like the USFL doesn't have the best football players. They have the football players who can't make the NFL yet and are using this as a
And
uh
it's not the
issue.
and it's not the whole team,
Yeah.
but you know, you got Mercedes Moné and Tony Storm. It would be like on the Detroit Lions if Jahmyr Gibbs and Brian Branch were playing in another league. I'd be like, I probably should check out that league.
And there's precedent for this because in the 70s the NBA was certainly not what the NBA became. It was kind of a fledgling morbid league, and then there was this rebel upstart league called the ABA. And what did the ABA do? Well, they paid the best college and high school players not to go to the NBA, and they took them. And that's why there was a time where the ABA players were the more well-known players. You had Dr. J, you had Moses Malone, you had Rick Barry, you had a lot of ABA teams that had the superstars and they were more popular. And it's like, because, for those of you old enough, and I wasn't even old enough, neither are you, like Dr. J was the guy.
He was the guy.
He was the guy. I mean, he was Michael Jordan, right? And it's like, well, I can't see him in the NBA. I can only see him in the ABA, but I'm going to watch the ABA, right? And so it's the same thing here. Support your favorite wrestlers. Don't worry about the studio that they perform at or the
Yep.
production company. Support the wrestlers. Now, Again, different different situation. If Leonardo DiCaprio goes from Warner Brothers to Paramount and starts making crappy movies, then I would look at the director. I would look at the producers. I would look at the screenwriters for Paramount or who they're hiring compared to Warner Brothers and say, okay, get me some of the Warner Brothers over here so we can produce the same product. But, for folks who are tribalist, it's just not being a tribalist in 2025 for professional wrestling actually only hurts the wrestlers and fans. It doesn't hurt
It,
anybody else.
it does. Yep. Hurts the
It doesn't hurt
performers more
anybody
than
else.
anything.
It you look at what, like I said, you work for a very big corporation. I work for a well-funded corporation, but it's a company that bought my old company out, so it's kind of finding its footing almost. Well funded, but revenue wise, not producing, huge numbers, five, 600 million. But where I'm going with this is like Mark Shapiro coming out and saying what he said. Like, if my CEO did a meeting with everybody and he said, you know what, here's the deal. You're getting the money I tell you you're going to get. Okay. We're going to charge our clients more for the services you do. We're going to charge them more, but you're getting none of the money and you're going to like it. That would be the equivalent. And if that happened, the next hour I am texting one of many headhunters I know, and I'm like, look, what's out there for me? Because I'm not going to sit in that kind of an environment, right? And so I would hope all the professional wrestlers out there, and I know this is your dream, and I know you love doing this. I would strongly, if I couldn't figure out how to get a union, so we have somebody who's going to negotiate on our behalf, I would strongly look at, all elite wrestling as my path because you can make really good money there and it's going to help the playing field. But Mark Shapiro just, ticket prices are going to go up. Think about that.
Yep.
Ticket prices right now are at an all-time high, and we're already starting to see a little bit of an erosion in the market. Go look at the event after
Evansville.
WrestlePalooza. Yeah, Evansville, Indiana. There are about 2,000 tickets left. Now, here's the crazy stat, and we can get to kind of the week that's going to be. It's a big week for the in the ring product.
Huge week.
10,500 seats have been sold in Indianapolis for WrestlePalooza. 10,500 seats have been sold in where I will be next Saturday, Toronto, All Out. The most expensive ticket price for AEW is about $800. The most expensive ticket price for WrestlePalooza, I think, is what, like 7,500?
Yeah. 8250. Why does 8250 pop in my head? 8,250?
Is that what the number is?
I think so.
Okay, let's see. WrestleTix. By the way, for those who are into it, WrestleTix is really good. Okay. Oh, I was wrong. Okay. So, okay. Cheapest admission ticket average, they say, is $161 for WrestlePalooza. They have 10,782 tickets distributed. Their setup is 12,323. They have 1,000 seats left. All Out. Okay,
That,
All Out Toronto. They have 10,495 tickets. The average ticket price is $52. So the WWE is 3 times more expensive than AEW.
and they're bragging about it. You got WWE fans. It's funny on Twitter. They're like, "Oh, it's 3 times more expensive for the one." I mean, I don't ever brag about having to spend 3 times more money for something I want. If WWE can get away with it, it's capitalism, man. They can do it. But like it's weird to me that the fans were like, yeah, it's more expensive to go see
Well,
WWE. It's like that's not good.
so there's my finance my I guess I don't know what his title is, but professor of finance when I was doing my MBA at Harvard, he would tell me something. He'd say, "Look, Raja," and this was, by the way, let me set the what I'm talking about. If you guys remember COVID, a lot of things went up in price because the production stopped, right? So like at the time, conversation I had with my dad before he passed away was about watches. And, my dad was into watches and I was, trying to get in. And he'd be like, yeah, no, buy one nice watch, don't buy 10 garbage watches, buy one nice watch. It's like, oh, Mega, Rolex, whatever. And I remember I was like, oh my God, these Rolex prices, they're not coming down. They're not coming down. And my professor would say, you know what? They might never come down. So if you really want it, you're gonna have to pay the piper. Because if you don't buy it now, you might never get to buy it. Because what if the price never comes down, right? Like that was his logic. And then I would tell him, but like I don't wanna I don't want to enable the resale market. Like so for those of you who don't know how this watch thing works, there's what's called a RAD, which is a Rolex authorized dealer, and there's only a few in the country. Like in Nashville, it's the very high end mall you guys have in
Green
Nashville,
Hills.
Green Hills, and it's a boutique outside. It's like when you pull into the parking lot, it has like the Rolex sign. That's the authorized dealer in Nashville. I think they have three, but El Paso has one, right? So shout out to Roger at Dutch and Dutch. They have one. So you go in and you say, okay, I want this. There's certain models you can put a deposit on, and you will get your model when the production is done. So it could be 8 months, it could be 4 months, it could be 6 months, it could be 12 months that we don't know. Then there are Rolex models that you cannot pre-order because when you have to be like a preferred client. So you don't have to buy three, four, already five watches, then you could get this watch. So the watch I wanted was, a certain price, but the resale market was selling it two or three times. So if the watch was $5,000, they were selling it for 15,000. And my professor was like, well, and I said, but I cannot pay to what you're saying. I cannot pay three times more for something that I know I could get for this if I just be patient. Why would I do it? And I went to the AD here and I said, look, what do I have to do? And he's like, if this is what you're interested in, you buy, you buy some jewelry from me, you do this. It's kind of a barter system. I'll take care of you. And I have never ever bought a Rolex on resale. I refuse to do it because to what you just said, and my point is I will not pay three times more for something that I don't have to. And so, what I'm telling wrestling fans is if you just show the WWE that these ticket prices are outrageous, they have priced you out, they will come down.
Wait for the next
Yeah.
Raw in town. Like purposefully skip the show if you're not happy with the prices. That's the market at work. Prices will not come down out of the goodness of anyone's heart. That's for damn sure. Not in this not in this economy. Um and I do think that there are cracks starting to show in that armor uh with ticket sales not moving as quickly. Um and again, I actually, for anyone who thinks we're being hypocrites, I wouldn't mind the ticket prices so much if the money was funneling to the wrestlers. That's kind of the bother is kind of Mark Shapiro's comments are off-putting because it's to line, several executive pockets, not to make the roster more money. He said straight out, I actually prefer not to, pay the wrestlers more. So let's transition.
Yep.
We've got Wrestlepalooza coming up next Saturday, All Out coming up next Saturday. Quite a decent amount of women's programs in both AEW and WWE. Um, I think, we've talked WWE. We'll circle back around and go Wrestlepalooza, but you will be at All Out. You are
I
going
will.
to Toronto to celebrate your birthday week.
Yes, I am in Toronto for my birthday week. My birthday is Friday, September 19th, and Saturday is September 20th, which is All Out. I will be there, ringside, close to ringside. I think I'm row three, by the commentators. And so I am looking forward to this show. There are two prominent women's matches on the show. There is for the World Championship, it is Timeless Toni Storm versus in a four-way versus Thekla versus Jamie Hayter versus Kris Statlander. Correct?
Correct.
And this is a match that I think has
Real quick, you'll also have the 8 women tornado tailgate brawl, which will be on the pre-show deal.
so thanks to Mr. Khan moving this to 3 p.m. in the afternoon. I am so thankful the Blue Jays do not play that weekend because then it would be a nightmare to get down there. But yeah, what is the 8 women's tag, which is the tailgate?
It is Willow, Mina, Harley, and Queen Aminata against Julia Hart, Sky Blue, Megan Bayne, and Penelope Ford.
Okay, so I'm looking forward to that. So I'll definitely make it there early to get to see that match too. So you have 8 plus 12. You have 14 women on this card. That's impressive.
It's really, yeah.
That's really good. So I'm glad to see Tony is using the depth that he has in his division. So let's go through the predictions. Timeless Toni Storm versus Thekla versus Jamie Hayter versus Kris Statlander. My prediction for this match is very simply Timeless Toni Storm retains.
Okay. So I'm going to go left field on this one. I think the Willow, Chris, will they, won't they, that's been going on forever, is actually going to take the head fake turn, and they're not going to reunite and become eventually the tag team champions the first. I actually think that that's what's delayed the belts, not injuries. I'm going to go. I could be so wrong here, and it might just be as simple as Timeless Toni Storm, and I get that, but they're just doing a lot with Chris with the Death Riders for it not to be something. So I'm going to go upset Kris Statlander. I don't think she pins Toni, and I think we get a program out of that. I don't see an obvious person. There's not an obvious patsy in this match for Toni to just pin and them to just say, so good job on Tony Khan booking this. Would you agree with that? There's not an obvious patsy. It's probably Jamie,
I
but
thought
it's
it,
not as obvious as it usually is.
I thought it was Thekla.
Yeah, but I mean, they've booked her as she's got her own group. They've booked her strong. I don't know. Just if they were gonna pin Tekla, I would just have the one-on-one match.
No, that's true. So you have Chris winning the title and joining the Death Riders.
I'm going where there's smoke, there's fire. Yeah.
Okay. That's actually I don't think that's that left field of a prediction. I think they have to have some payoff for Kris Statlander and the Death Riders. I mean, Moxley got her money back. Daniel Garcia has joined the Death Riders. He has been seen talking to her prior to joining.
Yeah, so here's where I'm at. I don't see them circling back to Mercedes Toni. Doesn't look like it's in the works at all. Athena's taking 6 weeks off.
She is.
Yeah, 5 to 6 weeks off. So
Is
I
she injured?
they don't know for sure. They think that it might be like a nagging.
Okay.
Tony Khan just decided, well, Mercedes is doing this belt collector deal. She's going to be taking bookings all over the world. He probably would rather her be a guest champion than top holder, right? It, it makes it makes more sense. So I'm going that the division comes off of this pause we've been on with waiting for Athena to get to 1,000, Mercedes to break um, Jade's record with the TBS belt, and then Toni Storm, four-time champion. Shout out to Lyric Wrestling. She had a really good rant about this on a different podcast. I think the Wrestle Purist one the other day, but I think Mercedes is going to stay status quo. Athena's off TV, but she'll be losing that belt, I think, when she comes back. I think Toni, it freshens up what's going on for Kris to win. Um, you could have a lot of good feuds with Kris turning heel. And I think Mercedes continues the belt collector thing and she holds on to the TBS belt for a while and then you build up someone to take it off of her. So I'm going at one of these belts got to come off of one of these three women within the next 2 months. And this is I'm saying it's going to happen right now.
Okay. Well, it's not a bad I think that would be good. That would be a fresh twist. And I
Yep,
would be fully supportive of that. I don't know, in these four ways it always seems like the champ retains. So that's
I
why
agree.
I'm going Tony. And then, for the TBS title, Mercedes Moné is facing Riho. And I mean, I think this one's a no-brainer. Mercedes is obviously going to win because she has to get to Jade's record, break it. And I think Riho just being returning and getting the belt is just not realistic. I think the person who beats Mercedes, I still think Willow beating her might be the way.
I think so too.
Yeah, it might be the
Um,
way. So Mercedes is my prediction.
Yep, I'm going with Mercedes. To me, the bigger tale of suspense here is does the match go more than 12 minutes?
Yes,
Um,
I think the match goes 15 minutes.
15 minutes. The number one, whether you think Mercedes has made a big impact on AEW or not, look at the minutes spent on women's matches since she's been versus before. Our buddy Mike, who's been on the show at the beginning, is always great about pointing this out. I mean, the women's title matches were averaging 8 and 9 minutes, and the women were getting like 15 minutes, 20 minutes max per show. And now, they get that essentially just in Mercedes match. They get 15 to 20 minutes, and then the Tony matches have been longer. And on this one, we get a third match on the pre-show. So Mercedes retains. Riho has a match against Robin Renegade this Wednesday. I think Riho looked a little bit rusty, having been off for over a year. So I'm glad to see her getting some work in. It is interesting because the Renegade twins are the rumored. Will we ever get a stable, a money corporation for Mercedes? And hopefully, something interesting happens on Wednesday. But yes, Mercedes to retain um, and continue on as TBS champion.
There are still really good tickets available to that show in London, Ontario. And if I didn't have friends who all were working while I was on, my vacation, I was thinking about taking a drive to London, Ontario to see that because since I'm going to All Out, it would have been good to get kind of the stories leading up to it. Um,
Queen Aminata versus Thekla is going to be one on that one. These two women have that synergy together where, people think they hate each other. It's probably more like they respect each other and they feel comfortable because they basically beat the crap out of each other when they wrestle. And
yeah,
that usually is a sign of respect, not hate, but it looks like hate on TV.
yeah, best money. That's how you make it in wrestling. Is it looks like you hate each other. So the same night, but 4 hours later, they're having what's called Wrestlepalooza in Indianapolis, Indiana. And there are two prominent matches involving, one is a women's world title match, and then the other one is the mixed tag. So let's go predictions there. So the first one is going to be the mixed tag match prediction, and you have Seth Rollins and his wife, Becky Lynch. Both are champions. One is the world champion, and the other one is the women's intercontinental champion. They are facing CM Punk and the returning AJ Lee, who's now such a big deal being, returning. She's being covered by Pop Base. So, AJ coming back has drawn a lot of attention, brought a lot of new eyeballs to the product, or returning eyeballs, sorry. Your prediction on this match?
I think that this is the most obvious result in wrestling this year. Um, I would, this is the type of result. Uh, we talked boxing on this a little bit. If you guys don't know, if you've ever seen the meme with Floyd Mayweather, with the money laid out on his table, Floyd is actually very well known because he's such a good student of the game in boxing. He always felt like he could look at a fight and Vegas may price something at minus 500. So that means that that person is so favored to win. Your normal human being there's no value betting on that person. And then your normal human being, if they did bet on it, they would have to bet such a large sum. If lightning struck and Buster Douglas happened, they'd be poor. They'd lose their home. Floyd bets on minus 500, minus 600, minus 700, minus 800, minus 1,000 odds. And he'll bet $500,000, $1 million. He'll bet $1 million on minus 1,000, which would pay what?
Doesn't it pay a dollar? You have to spend $1,000 to win a dollar, right?
Right. So was that 10,000? Is that 10,000?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably an extreme example, but more what I'm saying is he'd bet like $500,000 on a minus 400 odds
Yeah.
because he can afford to do it and because he knows the minus 400 person keeps their chin tucked and they're not losing and they trained hard.
Hmm.
And it's an easy, 20, 30, $40,000 for him to make that he knows he's making. I say that to say this is the type of fight Floyd Mayweather would drop $1 million on because AJ Lee is winning. AJ and CM Punk are winning, and AJ is beating Becky. This
Yeah.
is this is anything else is a swerve for swerve's sake, just to be stupid. But AJ's beating Becky in this match.
Oh, okay. You know what? I did not see. I just got the odds for this. Wow. Okay. So the odds are CM Punk, AJ Lee are minus 400. And Seth and Becky is plus 250. So, yes, this is the easiest prediction of the year, which is AJ Lee is going to make Becky tap out to the Black Widow.
Yep.
That's it, right? And they're going to win, and it's going to set up an AJ Lee Becky feud, individual feud, and then obviously Seth and CM Punk have had their, feud forever. So, instead of fight forever, they feud forever. Now, here's the shock. And I just got these odds. Do you want to take a guess? So the other match on this card in one of the worst, no, I don't even say worst booked. Well, yeah, one of the worst booked vacant title matches of all time. IYO Sky versus Stephanie Vaquer. IYO was promised a world title match. Naomi couldn't because, she announced her pregnancy. Stephanie won the Battle Royal at Evolution. So she is also owed a title match. So that's how these two are fighting. The buildup for this has been awful.
Have
It
they
is
been in the ring together?
no. It's awful. It's been awful. Everything
Awful.
about this has been awful. Now, if you know me, you know this is also probably the match I'm most looking forward to maybe this year. Now, that being said, do you want to take a guess at what the odds are for this match and who has what odds? So let's play the prices right here, gambling edition. Would you like to predict what the odds are for each fighter? IYO Sky, Stephanie Vaquer.
I'm gonna say. So you said Seth CM Punk was minus 400 and plus 250, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to say WWE has told basically if I'm a fan that doesn't watch every week or if I'm not on the internet looking at wrestling stuff, I've not been told why I should care about Stephanie as it relates to this match. She's not even on TV. Whereas EO is part of one of their better written backstage things going on right now. Has nothing to do with this match with Stephanie, but she's got a good thing going with Asuka, Kyrie, and Rhea. I'm gonna go that they have EO at minus 200 and Stephanie at like plus 100, plus 150, something like that.
You
Am I
are
way off?
you are so wrong. Okay.
Wow.
Stephanie Vaquer is minus 600.
What?
IYO Sky is plus 350. According to the betting odds, Stephanie Vaquer has an 86% chance to win. Here's the craziest part about this whole thing. Stephanie Vaquer is the highest favorite on the whole show.
She hasn't even been on TV.
She has a minus 600 odds to win the title, and IYO is plus 350. So Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, they're telling me have a better chance to win than IYO. I don't. There's no logic that tells me that that makes any sense.
If Stephanie wins, it will be the most oddly timed crowning of a first time champion ever.
Yeah.
Because any other time that they belted up somebody like this, it was one of those things where, and it's rarely happened with the women, but he was famous for this. Vince would have a pay per view, champion come out of it, and he would be unhappy with the show, the crowd, the momentum, the feel. And he'd come in on Monday and he'd be like, we're gonna make a change. Now this stuff doesn't happen and hasn't happened for like a decade, but this was the way the 19 early 2000s, some of the 90s was he booked on the vibes of the pay-per-view and would make changes. That would be like this, but instead days after the vibe shifted. You know what I mean? But they haven't put any time into making people care about Stephanie on screen. She's great. They care about her, but what does the average fan know about her on WWE TV?
So, with that being said, would you like to make a prediction?
I'm sticking with Io. I woke up thinking it's Io.
I'm
She's a character. She is on TV with a purpose, and Stephanie is not.
if okay, so I'm gonna pick IYO as well. If the logic here is Asuka is going to cost IYO the title. So they're saying, well, because of the story on TV, it has to be IYO losing what you just said. One of the worst crownings of a top person ever. And honestly, who's
Yeah.
Stephanie's first feud? Ivy Nile?
Yeah,
It,
I love Asuka being prominent in this. Most baby faces don't win their first title because another baby face got cheated by a right. It's just so weird.
now there is this theory floating out there about Stephanie's first feud. So Stephanie wins the title. Her first feud is Bailey. The voices in my head, Bailey.
The Bianca Belair, let's hammer this person into the ground 15 times over the next 3 months
Well, I
to
mean,
be
yeah, I would be hard pressed to think if they put the title on Stephanie, she's losing it anytime soon. I
No, that's what I'm saying is Bailey is their number one. Her and Nia are their number one. Hey, we can let this person lose 10 to 15 times over the next 2 months and not have to think about booking anything else. Like what they did with Bianca, what they're doing with Nia right now with Tiffany.
no,
That is WWE booking. You're absolutely right. Bailey can
I,
lose to Stephanie 18 times and no one will blink.
I to me, this is a very easy, it should be IYO Sky wins the title.
Pam to AEW. Sorry.
We get IYO versus Roxanne as the first title feud because Roxanne has beaten IYO. And
That's
so
what I would say.
Roxanne has a case to be the number one contender. And Asuka and Rhea seem to be in a feud, which I'm actually very happy for. That there's a Asuka Rhea kind of feud lingering. And I think Asuka, in my opinion, should win that feud to be IYO's next opponent. And I think eventually we get back to Rhea versus IYO, but they kind of go and they come together. And I still think so I saw the greatest TikTok video of all time. Okay. At least for me. And it was
Shout
Bianca
out
Belair and Stephanie Vaquer, looking how they look, which is magnificent, talking about their predictions for the Canelo Alvarez Bud Crawford fight. And then,
Bianca nailed it.
yeah, she did. She got it correct. And I said, WrestleMania. I see the vision. So one of these two take the belt off Tiffany, and then we get Bianca Stephanie at WrestleMania. And then we get Io Rhea at WrestleMania. There is some perfect booking.
I'm gonna go college football fan.
Mm-hmm.
Power ranking. Who's Stephanie's best win since she's been on main roster? Roxanne?
Yep.
How many months ago was that?
September. I no, 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 no. Hold on. No. It was like after Mania. So like what?
May? April, May? So I mean, it just, I mean, I, we're closer to the end of the episode than we are to the beginning. I don't want to go on a whole rant, but I mean, unless Stephanie's injured, they wasted a whole summer of her career.
They did. They
She won a battle royal on Evolution, which is great, but she's about Mercedes age, right? 32, 33, 34,
she's
something like
30.
that.
She's 32. Yeah.
This is a prime summer of her career. Not our business if she was injured or not, but they say that she's not. She said she's not. And they could have, and again, this is why we're always complaining and advocating for more time for women because you think about how many meaningful, let's say Stephanie wins because Asuka Casio. How many meaningful matches has Stephanie had since June 1st? And we cover women's wrestling, and I can't pick one off the top of my head besides the Battle Royal. She's been feuding with Ivy Nile on main event, right?
She has been feuding with Ivy now and May, but yeah, I don't. I look. I know they love Stephanie Vaquer. Okay,
For
I
sure.
know Stephanie will get her moments, multiple.
They just have to do better.
But they have to be a little bit more creative with this one. And they've actually done a really good job of making the crowd care about Io, right?
Yeah.
So like to me here, Io, the belt getting going on Io is the easy answer simply because there's so many more paths and more meaningful feuds that come out of it. There's a Rhea feud, there's a Asuka feud. Look, AJ Lee beats Becky Lynch for the world title. Becky has a Io, you have never beaten me. There's that feud. You have so many great feuds with Io winning the title. With Stephanie, there's no feud. It's literally she's just the champion defending a title. There's no story, there's no emotional attachment. And I love Stephanie Vaquer. And everybody knows me, I love Stephanie Vaquer. My girlfriend knows I love Stephanie Vaquer. My point is, I just don't see it here. I think her
Yeah.
time will come. I think she will get a deserved big spotlight world title win. It's not this Saturday. it should be IYO Sky, but these odds are crazy. Minus 600?
Yeah, and generally the people who put those odds together, because Vegas doesn't want to lose money, they have
Mhm.
sources in the writing room for sure. So I think that they're betting on. So we're gonna look like idiots, right? Next Sunday, it's gonna be like Stephanie wins. That's why the odds are what they are. We both picked Io. They're betting on the Asuka interference. And if you told me, Billy, Raj, you guys have watched wrestling for decades. They've been setting up Asuka screwing Io for weeks. How did you not see it? Yes, but belt going to someone who doesn't even make TV, who isn't wrestling matches and beating people at all the last 3 months is the part that doesn't make sense. If it were Roxanne, or if it were Rhea, or if it were anyone else who's on TV all the time, it would be like minus 1,000, no brainer. But Stephanie's just, and it's not even the contract signing, which was weird. We didn't talk about. They canceled that segment last minute and put Stephanie on
NXT.
Tuesday on NXT. Throw that part out, which is weird enough. She just hasn't been on TV at all, really, wrestling or making fans. The emotional attachment piece is the part you nailed.
There's something happening here because she didn't show up Monday for a contract signing, but Tuesday she not only came out on NXT, she came out to challenge for a match the following Tuesday, right? So this Monday on Raw, we hope to get something with Stephanie and Io, but I am gonna be such a conspiracy theorist here. Stephanie, and then we can end here. Stephanie Vaquer, they came out, asked her flat out in an interview, and she said, "No, I'm not injured. Um, I'm good to go for WrestlePalooza." So, what if there is something lingering, and on the NXT show, she gets injured and taken out in the story, right? Like she gets taken out. They take her out, and now at WrestlePalooza, it is a Roxanne and Io, or it's somebody else in Io. That would be such a terrible bait and switch. And but here's why I don't think it's gonna happen because there's the ESPN piece. Because ESPN has gone out of their way to promote this match on all of their advertisements. So I think they'll stick to the match. I just cannot see. Here's the other reason why I don't think Asuka interfering should even matter here. The first two Io and Stephanie matches got rave reviews until the end. Both ended with interference. So now you're
Right.
going to do it for the third
We're
time.
gonna go three, and okay. Does Stephanie just beat Io clean? I can't see it after no investment in her and Io being as over as she is as babyface. If Stephanie was a heel, it would make sense because you get the heat from the win. As a babyface, I almost, your conspiracy theory makes more sense than her just winning outright. So, yeah, as we wrap things up, a couple other thoughts out there that I just, I want to give NXT props. The character realignment for Blake Monroe has been spectacular. Her vignette this week was really,
Great.
really good. Really, really tapping into why she's um different, and not making her seem just like a cookie cutter mean girl. Someone on Twitter said it right. It's like she's not a mean girl, she's a psychopath, right? Like it has a more almost serial killer vibes than just a mean girl in high school. And they had her playing the mean girl in high school, which is more the Tiffany Stratton 2017 Alexa Bliss bit. Um, she's supposed to come off more so crazy, which they've realigned her character, and it was clicking for me on that vignette. That's what they paid for when they went out and got her from AEW. Um, I saw some highlights of a GCW match between Megan Bayne and Shotzi Blackheart that looked really good and fun. It was in Detroit, so I'm gonna seek out that full match, and I think other people should as well. Um, Athena's starting to put together the card, not necessarily matches yet, but announcing talent for Who Runs the World 2. Um, um, so far, she announced Maya World's going to be on the show again. Kris Statlander is going to be on the show. Nixon Newell is going to be on the show. So that will be a fun event coming up in October, I think, as well. So some exciting things at play there.
Yeah. Yeah, and next Sunday when we record, we will have the results of both of these shows. So like you said, we could look completely foolish by picking EO, knowing the odds are completely in Stephanie's favor. I just can't see it.
Yeah.
And again, they could totally make this Stephanie look, we could be missing this completely where I just thought about it. What if ESPN has went to WWE and said, "Look, we want Stephanie to be the face of the women on ESPN." And we think
Why wouldn't they have written her on the show the last month though?
so that's the thing, right? Like the way they have written her on the show doesn't make sense to have her beat EO of all people. Like EO has not lost a clean match since the Lyra match. Like she has not lost because you can't count the money in the bank as clean and because
Right.
it's cash in, and she lost to Roxanne with a lot of outside interference. But I don't know. I feel like Stephanie's time should come later with a better
With the
story,
build.
with a build. This is not a good look, but we'll see what happens. So we are wrapping up this week.
Top five will return next week.
Yeah, so top five will return next week. And this is going to be an interesting text messaging football day for me because I got who obviously I'm very close to as a friend, and you're a Lions fan. And I got my cousins who wanted to actually go to Detroit for this game, but they can't. But obviously this is their Super Bowl. In Chicago, this is their game because is this the genius now who's behind the Lions, who's going to beat the Lions, which they haven't been able to do in a while. And I know he's been texting me all morning, and he's like, "I feel good about this," and I'm like, I would watch the game before I feel too good about it. I would
Must win for us. If they beat us, I'll have to tip my hat. But there's no flat-footedness from the Lions. Not only I think do the guys want to prove that we're a good team without Ben Johnson, but we got our butt handed to us last week. So home
oh,
opener. No, Green Bay looks very good though, if we're being fair.
Green Bay looks really good. Yes, unfortunately for my team, they look really, really good because they have the guy that we should have had, and we should have been on my way to San Francisco. But
You know
uh,
who else looked good? Us for the first 16 weeks of the year last year. So I'm already okay. That's fine. Green Bay, if maybe they'll win the division after going 15-2 and getting nothing from it. I need my Lions playing good in December, January, and February.
it's funny. I was having this conversation yesterday where I was watching the fight. There was mostly Cowboy fans, a Commanders fan, a Raiders fan, um, and they were like, "Oh, it's Green Bay's year. It's Green Bay's the team to beat." And I said, "Okay, after week two." I said, "Are
Yeah,
we really gonna judge a football season after 2 weeks?" And they're like, "Why not?" And I said, "I can tell you why not." I said, "The team last year that won the Super Bowl, I don't know if you've heard of them, but they were what after week two? 1-1. What were they after week four? 2-2. Anybody after week four and they lost to Tampa Bay by a lot, say, yeah, this team's going to win the next 15 in a row and win the Super. Nobody saw that. So my point is, it's a long season. Um, you don't get crowned champion after week two.
nope.
You just don't. So to me, obviously there's this other game that I guess I've heard about. There's some Super Bowl rematch happening later today that I don't think I've ever seen Fox make such a big deal out of a week two regular season game, but they have certainly promoted the hell out of this one. Um, I don't like this game. If I were to bet, and I don't bet on my team or against my team, if I were to bet honestly, I would bet Kansas City. Simply because I don't think I've ever seen a player and a team that has won so much and done so much just winning be told that this is a must win. Actually, I disagree. I think the must win is on the other side. I think it's a must win for the Eagles. I don't think it's a must win for the Chiefs. And the reason I say that is the next two Eagles opponents after this are the Rams and the Bucks. The Rams obviously have revenge on their mind, and the Bucks always beat us in Tampa Bay. So to me, I think this is the win the Eagles have to have, and I don't like it for them because everybody's telling Patrick Mahomes he's washed. And everybody's telling Andy Reid he got his butt kicked in the Super Bowl, which, by the way, they did. I just don't think it's that simple. Game is in Kansas City. This is the first game the Chiefs fans have seen their team play since the AFC title game in January. So this is 9 months in the making, and this is their home opener. Because remember, they played in Sao Paulo last week. So as an Eagles fan, I don't like this game. If I were to bet, I would bet Chiefs. I just hope the Eagles win. I don't care if the score is 3-0. I could care less. I just not want the W, but I don't feel good about this at all. There's just too much good. There's just too many people who love the Eagles in this game, and that's why for me I would go Chiefs. But I know your team. Does your team play their? They play 1 o'clock, right? They play
Yep.
the early. Okay.
Early game.
What
Yep.
am I saying? Of course they do, because every game is early because this is the Chiefs Eagles is the game at
Right.
at the 4:25. So yeah, good luck to your Lions.
Thank
Um,
you. Good luck to your Eagles.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And we'll see what happens. I'm excited to actually watch your team play the Bears. So one of the games it's going to be on my main screen because I'm just curious how Ben calls a game against his old defense and how his old defense plays against his offense. Because this is
Yep.
basically like a Lions practice now, right? That's how this
From
would
last
look.
year. Yep.
So I'm excited for that game. There's some other good games on. Enjoy your football Sunday. We'll be back next week to go over AEW All Out. I will be there live, so I will have an in-person perspective and obviously Wrestlepalooza, and we will preview NXT No Mercy, which is also coming up, which seems to be the crowning day for Lola Vice based on all of
Yep.
the. So on that note, everybody, talk to you next week.
Thanks, everyone.